What's up, Blur Gang? I'm back with an edition of Character Issues. Character Issues is where I break down some characters that I think might be getting slept on, or people don't quite understand, or just are in my ADHD brain at the moment. So, on the inaugural episode of Character Issues, we're going to chop it up about Black Bolt. His name, his real name is Blackagar Boltigan. Height 6'2", weight 215. His affiliation, he's with the Inhuman royal family, and he's the king. His powers are basically this. Black Bolt's voice is one of the most destructive things in the Marvel universe. A whisper can shatter mountains, a scream can collapse stars. I'll break that down a little bit later on. Beyond his voice, he can manipulate his electrons for flight, energy projection, superhuman strength, and a lot of it comes through him rechanneling his voice into other applications. His most devastating technique is called the Master Blow. He can hit you with a single punch and it's all over for you. Like, regardless of who or what you are, the Master Blow, if he clips you with that, it's done. It's a wrap. So let's run it down. So who are the Inhumans? The Inhumans are a secret race genetically engineered by the Kree. Their powers come from the exposure to the Terrigen mist. And the royal family is Black Bolt, his wife Medusa, sister-in-law Crystal, Karnak, Gorgon. They all rule. I can never say the name, so forgive me. I got it as Attilian. Here's the thing. I always liked the Inhumans, right? Like, I like the Inhumans. That's kind of what I grew up with. The Eternals were the ones I didn't quite vibe with. And I still don't really vibe with the Eternals, bro. Like, I'd be hard pressed to tell you the difference between Icarus and most of the other Eternals. I got to keep it up. Be seeing Icarus out there doing stuff. You can't tell me the difference between Icarus and Mentor besides their age. Like, what is Icarus's actual power? And I know that the Eternals have their own little powers or whatnot, and it all is based on what their interests are, what they channel it towards. What does Icarus do? Drop it in the comments. And I know that I'm gonna have Icarus fans up in a frenzy about this one. So jump in the comments. I'm not dissing your boy. I don't connect with the Eternals at all. So what happened was when Marvel and Marvel and Fox actually were duking it out about the X-Men rights, right? It's gonna be the same. That didn't work. We had these Terrigen Mist major events tied in Miss Marvel's origins, and even created some rivalries with the X-Men. They couldn't really 100% let go of the X-Men because they were a cash cow, but they tried to de-emphasize their place in the universe. The problem is you lost the oppression allegory with the Inhumans. It just didn't work. The X-Men, you can go with the oppression, the marginalized group. It's hard to say that this royal family that's living in castles and one referring to each other as king and queen and sire and all that is hard to replace the X-Men with that and keep the same oppression allegory. You kind of lose that. The Inhumans TV show was a flop. And I tried my hardest, y'all. Really tried. I tried. I was a huge fan of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I tried my best to lock in with the Inhumans TV show. I do think they got old boy right for Black Bolt. And that's what I'll say. But the Inhumans TV show was not it at all. So anyway, the Inhumans show flopped. And then Marvel brought Fox in and kind of got the X-Men back. And the humans got put to the side. They kind of got written off. So instead, Marvel pushed the Eternals, which is basically the diet in humans, if I'm be 100%. I know that there's going to be fans that are going to talk about some of the connections with the New Gods and all the other stuff and the Kirby stuff. Listen, the Eternals aren't the Inhumans. You traded Lockjaw, the giant teleporting dog, for Icarus. Just didn't work. Lockjaw was so dope that Lockjaw caught my eye before I even could recognize what the rest of the Inhumans were. Lockjaw was just ubiquitous. He was everywhere in the Marvel universe in the 80s. And you just saw him on the covers and everything because it was a big ass dog. I mean, who is this big ass dog, right? So anyway, Black Bolt's voice, he can flatten buildings. Just speaking a word can shatter mountains. And a full scream can collapse a star. He did that during his fight with Vulcan. His best feats, like these are some of the best feats that I could find out there. I mentioned the mountain-shattering whisper. That was in Fantastic Four 146. Collapsed a star with a scream with Vulcan in War of Kings #6. He screamed Thanos into the ground. And that entire Infinity crossover where they introduced Thanos' son, Thane, Black Bolt did get his ass whooped, but at least he kind of blew Thanos back and kind of blew his, like, destroyed his clothes and kind of injured him and stuff. I'm getting into the Black Bolt getting his ass whooped because that's probably one of the biggest issues with the character. He flattened the home city with the Whisper. That one's in World War Hulk. And he destroyed Apocalypse's ship in Silent War #6. Now, here's the thing. If every sound that bro makes is dangerous, and I don't know if it's just tied to his vocal cords. I think it's just tied to his vocal cords. But so, are we saying that, like, say Black Bolt is on Earth and decides to have a burrito bowl, and the BG start hitting bro, and he has one of them really loud, resonance kind of farts, right? Can that, like, snuff out the solar system? Like, can that blow out the sun? Like, this is where my mind goes. Folks. I apologize, but this is kind of the kind of thoughts that keep me from having good jobs. But yeah, if he farts, could he, like, blow out a solar system, or, like, could it, like, destroy the planet like Marvel? I just need to know. These are questions that need to be answered. If you're gonna take the idea, at least cut me a check, right? Here's my problem with the Black Bolt, and this is the issues I have with the character. Hence the name character issues. Black Bolt is one of those Marvel's preeminent jobbers. And for those that watch professional wrestling, the jobber is kind of the dude that is destined to take the pinfall. Like, he's the guy that you beat up to get to the other guy, to establish how tough this wrestler is. And Black Bolt's been in that role pretty frequently. And when you read the lore and you hear some of the characters talk about him, Hulk will talk about how strong Black Bolt is once he channels his electrons into fighting. Like, he's been shown fighting toe-to-toe with, like, Hulk and Thor, Submariner, like, holding his own. People don't want smoke with Black Bolt like that. But whenever there's a new villain, or they ever need to establish a villain coming in, or when they need to show, like, how angry the Hulk is, like when he came back to Earth in World War Hulk, Black Bolt's the one that's the first one to get his ass beat. He gets his ass beat. And so Marvel's kind of put him in that role. But I mean, there's a couple of other ones, like The Thing. My boy Ben Grimm gets thrown in that role. Silver Surfer gets tossed in that role. We need to beat his ass to show how impressive this person is over here. It happens pretty frequently. And Black Bolt seems to be that designated character. And that's one of the issues. Like, you can't establish this dude as intimidating, world-ending level threat, and every other crossover, Black Bolt's the first one to get the brakes beat off of him to establish Galaxio, the new villain for this crossover. It just can't work like that, bro. And so once we shake off that Jobber King, like, we need a run. And I know right now, they've kind of brought him back into the fold. Without getting into any spoilers, Black Bolt's going to be playing a big role in some upcoming things with Marvel and stuff. They're going to have to establish him as more than the dude that just gets his ass whooped. And y'all doing my boy Black Bolt dirty, because if you go and look at some of the old Marvel comic books, Black Bolt is holding his own against some of the heaviest hitters in Marvel. Done right, he's standing shoulder to shoulder with Thor, a little bit, maybe a tier below in terms of strength, but his other powers, his other skills, or his other abilities put him up there, kind of on that level. But done wrong, he's just Marvel's crash test dummy. It's bad business, bro. It's ugly business. So respect him as Marvel's Silent King, or reject him as another setup character. Let me know in the comments. And if you ever want to hear me talk about the Inhumans again, just like this video, and I will break down some of the other Inhumans in the Inhuman royal family, because I really do think it's an interesting dynamic that Marvel is kind of squandering right now. We'll see what happens. Thanks for tuning in. This has been Character Issues. This is Blurting While Dad. Talk to y'all later.